I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but here we are. So here's the hook. Last week, my dad asked me if I would walk him down the aisle at his wedding. His second wedding. At first, I laughed. Actually laughed out loud because I thought he was joking. But he was completely serious. He looked at me across the dining table, his hands clasped like he was nervous, and said, "It would mean the world to me." I should probably back up. My parents divorced when I was 12. It wasn't a surprise. They fought constantly, and even as a kid I knew they were unhappy. The divorce wasn't clean either. My mom basically rebuilt her life from scratch while my dad seemed to float around, dating casually, never really serious with anyone. Until Lana. Lana is complicated. She's only 11 years older than me, which makes things weird right off the bat. She and my dad met at his gym, and apparently she didn't know he had kids until months into their relationship. By the time I met her, they were already living together. I tried to be polite, I really did. But she always made these little comments about my clothes, my weight, my mom. Once, when I wore a necklace my mom gave me, she smirked and asked if I wore it to remind Dad of his mistakes. Stuff like that. Fast forward to last month. My dad announces he's proposing. I put on the fake smile, said congratulations, and went home feeling sick. Then came the ask. He sat me down at his kitchen table, his fiancée bustling in the background, and asked me to do something I never imagined. Walk him down the aisle. "It's symbolic," he said. "Like you're giving me away to a new life." I stared at him, completely floored. He wanted me to hand him over to Lana, the woman who had done nothing but make me feel like I didn't belong in his new world. I didn't answer right away. I told him I'd think about it. But the truth? Even then, my answer was already forming. And it wasn't going to be yes. Because the moment I imagined myself holding his arm, smiling, and presenting him to a woman who once called my mom pathetic, I felt this tightness in my chest. I couldn't do it. But saying no to my dad isn't simple. He's the kind of man who avoids emotions until they explode. And this wedding is his big, fresh start. If I say no, it'll be like throwing a grenade into his perfect little fantasy. And to make things worse, my mom doesn't even know he asked me yet. I can already imagine her reaction. Part of me wants to keep this whole thing quiet. The other part of me knows secrets in families always find their way out. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I do know this. If I tell him no, I'm not just saying no to walking him down the aisle. I'm saying no to playing the role of a daughter in a family he's been trying to glue together with duct tape. And I have no idea what's going to happen when I finally say the words. I spent the next few days in this weird fog, avoiding calls from my dad. I couldn't stop replaying that moment in my head. His face so expectant, almost boyish, like he'd been waiting for this grand father-daughter bonding moment. And me? I was just angry. Not the kind of anger where you yell or slam doors. More like the heavy, simmering kind that makes your chest ache. Because the thing is, he never asked me to walk him through anything that mattered. Not when Mom cried herself to sleep in our tiny rental apartment after the divorce. Not when I had to get a job at 16 to help cover groceries. Not when I applied to college completely on my own, because he said he was too busy with work to read my essays. But now he wanted me front and center in his new shiny life. I wanted to scream. Instead, I avoided him. Of course, avoiding my dad isn't exactly easy. He's persistent when he feels ignored. On the fourth day, he showed up at my apartment with takeout and that forced cheerful smile he uses when he's trying not to argue. "Hey, kiddo," he said, lifting a bag of Thai food. "Thought we could eat." I let him in, mostly because the smell of pad Thai hit me like a punch. We sat on my couch, cartons spread out on the coffee table, and he wasted no time. "So," he said between bites, "have you thought about what I asked?" I stared at my noodles, twisting them around my fork, buying time. Finally, I said, "Yeah, I've thought about it." His eyes lit up, and I put my fork down. My hands were shaking a little, so I sat on them. "Dad, I can't walk you down the aisle." The silence that followed was suffocating. He blinked at me, his smile frozen like he hadn't heard right. "What do you mean you can't?" "I mean," my throat felt tight. "It doesn't feel right. It's not something I want to do." His expression hardened so fast it made my stomach flip. Is this about Lana? Of course it was about Lana. But saying that outright felt like lighting a match in a room full of gasoline. "It's not just about her," I said carefully. "It's about us. About how it feels fake. You and me, this isn't how we are. You don't get to ask me to play some role in front of everyone when, when you haven't really been there. I didn't expect the words to come out like that. They tumbled, shaky and raw, but once they were out, I couldn't take them back. He set his food down, jaw tightening. That's not fair. I've been there. Maybe not perfect, but I've always loved you. And this is important to me, to us as a family. Family. The word slipped out sharp. She's not my family. The air between us went heavy. He looked at me like I'd slapped him. Do you even hear yourself? He said finally. You sound bitter. Like a child. I thought you'd be mature enough to support me in this. I want you by my side. Why is that so hard? Because it felt like betrayal. Because it felt like handing him over to a woman who treated me like a rival instead of a daughter. But I didn't say that. I just shook my head, my eyes burning. I'm sorry, Dad. But my answer is no. He exhaled, long and sharp, like he was holding back 1,000 words. Then he stood up, grabbed his jacket, and said, Fine. If that's how you feel, maybe you shouldn't come at all. The door slammed, rattling my picture frames. I sat there in the silence, the smell of food I no longer wanted filling the room, and realized something. I might have just uninvited myself from my own father's wedding. The next morning, I woke up to about 10 missed calls and a handful of texts, all from my Aunt Claire, my dad's younger sister. Call me ASAP. What did you say to your dad? We need to talk before this gets worse. My stomach sank. I called her, bracing myself. Finally, she said, voice sharp but not angry, more anxious. Honey, what happened? Your dad showed up at my place last night, ranting about how you refused to support him. He's spiraling. I sighed. He asked me to walk him down the aisle. I said no. Silence. Then, a stunned laugh. He asked you to what? Exactly, I muttered. Claire groaned. Oh my God. No wonder you said no. That's ridiculous. He's been acting like this wedding is some theatrical production. Honestly, I thought he was exaggerating when he told me about his plan. Hearing someone else say it out loud made me feel both validated and even more nervous. Yeah, well, he didn't take it well, I said. Of course he didn't. You know how he gets when people don't fall in line. But listen, don't let him guilt you. You're allowed to have boundaries. And between you and me, I don't trust Lana either. That last part jolted me. Claire wasn't the type to trash people lightly. What do you mean? I asked. She hesitated, lowering her voice like Lana might be listening through the phone. I've caught her in a few lies. Little things, but still. And the way she isolates your dad, it rubs me wrong. I don't know, I just don't like the energy. Her words hit me harder than I expected. Because deep down, I already knew Lana wasn't good for him. I just didn't think anyone else saw it. But now I wasn't sure if this wedding was just about me saying no. Maybe it was about all of us quietly realizing my dad was barreling into something dangerous. Later that night, I got a text from my dad. We need to talk. Tomorrow. No excuses. My stomach twisted reading it. And I couldn't shake Claire's words. Isolates your dad. What exactly had I missed about Lana? Dad's text said tomorrow, noon, neutral ground. Like we were negotiating a ceasefire. He picked a place uptown with white tablecloths and chandeliers that looked like upside-down wedding cakes. I stood outside for a full minute before walking in, breathing through the kind of tightness that makes your teeth hum. The host smiled too big, asked if I was with the Patterson party, and I realized he'd put the reservation under his last name like this was some formal summit. He was already there. He stood when he saw me, smoothing the front of a sport coat I'd never seen him wear casually. That was the first hint this wasn't really neutral. The second hint was the woman sitting beside him in a crisp, white blazer with pearl buttons. Lana. I stopped. I thought this was just us. Dad's smile pinched. We're a team now. Anything that involves me, involves her. Lana tilted her head, like a sympathetic therapist. I wanted to hear your heart, she said softly. No ambush, promise. The host slid water glasses between us. I took the chair opposite them and rested my palms on my knees because they were already vibrating. We ordered something small to pretend this was normal. Iced tea for me, a club soda for Dad, some lemon thing for her that arrived with a sprig the length of my hand. The server left, and my father cleared his throat. Kiddo, he said, and the word felt like a relic. I've been thinking about what you said, and I need to understand what exactly is the obstacle here. Is it the optics? Is it your mother? Is it resentment? My laugh came out like a hiccup. Dad, you invited me to participate in a symbolic ceremony with a woman who has made me feel unwelcome in your life since day one. I'm not being dramatic. I'm telling you how it lands. And your response was to tell me not to come at all. His jaw shifted. I was angry. And hurt, Lana added, placing a manicured hand on his forearm. He was hurt because he loves you. Because he had this vision of healing, of being carried, well, metaphorically, into a new chapter with his daughter blessing it. It's not about replacing anyone. It's a bridge. A bridge that starts at my side and ends at yours, I said. That's not neutral. She blinked, lashes slow. Bridges connect. They don't choose sides. I glanced at Dad. I'm not a prop. His mouth tightened. No one said you were. I feel like one, I said quietly. And I feel like you haven't really asked how things have been since Lana came into the picture. You didn't ask when I moved apartments after my landlord raised the rent. You didn't ask when I got that promotion. But suddenly I'm central when there's an aisle and an audience. For a second, he looked stricken, like the words opened a draft he'd been holding shut. Then his shoulders lifted. He chose a lane. That's not fair, he said, voice dropping. You know I've been adjusting. Engagements are busy. We've had vendors, dates, family, logistics. Logistics, I repeated, tasting the word like something metallic. Right. Lana leaned forward just a fraction, enough that her perfume, powder, and something citrusy tangled with the lemon garnish. Could we talk about the specifics? She asked. Because maybe the ask felt bigger than it is. We have a processional planned. It's beautiful. You'd meet him halfway down, place your hand over his, and we'd pause. It's a blessing, an acknowledgement of the past nurturing the future. There's even a little reading we thought you could share. Only if you wanted to, of course. Dad slid a glossy folder from beneath the table like he'd been waiting for the cue. He passed it to me. Inside was a mock-up program, our names in a curly font, a schedule of events, and a section labeled Processional, a bridge of love, with bullet points. Halfway, hand over hand. Pause for gratitude words, optional. Embrace. My name was printed there in black ink, not pencil. Not to be discussed. Just decided. I stared at it long enough for the words to blur. You already wrote this. It's a template, Dad said quickly. We can edit. It's not set in stone. We sent it to the coordinator, Lano admitted, then lifted both palms in a gentle surrender. But only as a draft. We wanted to show you the vision. The vision where I do a performance of support, I said. Do I get lines? She smiled, small and suffering. Only if you're comfortable. I slid the folder back across the table. I said no. Dad's nostrils flared. You're making this combative. I'm making it clear. I took a breath. You want me to bless something that has cost me my relationship with you. You want me to do it in front of people who don't know the backstory, so they can clap for how modern and healed we are. That's not a bridge. That's a stage. He sat back like I'd slapped him. Lana's fingers tightened on his sleeve. What if there's a compromise? She said gently. What if it's not the aisle? What if instead you light the unity candle with him? There's a way to include you without the optics that upset you. The unity candle. The gratitude words. The folder. The bullet points. The branding of reconciliation. I don't want a role, I said. I want a relationship where my dad checks on me because he cares, not because it looks good on a program. We sat there with the ice melting in our glasses, with the quiet scrape of flatware from other tables and the clink of someone toasting on the other side of the room. Dad stared at the salt shaker. Lana did that thing where you purse your lips to keep yourself from reacting. Okay, Dad said finally. It came out like a door closing. If you can't do this, and you can't even consider a smaller role, then for your sake and ours, maybe you shouldn't come. I know that sounds harsh, but this day can't be about conflict. I need calm. We need calm. Boundaries, Lana added, not unkindly. No negativity. I'm your daughter, I said. I'm not negativity. He flinched. His voice softened, which somehow hurt worse. You're making me pick. No, I said, and I felt my eyes sting because this part still broke me even as I said it. I think you picked a long time ago. We didn't make it to entrees. The server boxed up the untouched appetizer with a professional smile I couldn't meet. I told them I had to go. Dad stood like he wasn't sure if we hug, and I stepped back, because touching someone is agreeing to the story their body tells. I didn't agree. Outside, the air had that late afternoon press, like the city was a hand on my back. I walked without deciding where, just enough to fall out of their line of sight. My phone buzzed. Aunt Claire, tell me everything, she said before hello. I told her. The folder. The bullet points. The candle. She swore under her breath, then corrected herself because she knows I hate when that starts spiraling. Sorry. Okay. Listen. I dug a little. What does a little mean with you? It means, she said, that I'm a paralegal with a strong sense of propriety and a cousin who works in records. Public records. Don't make that tone at me. Everything I found is above board. It's just interesting. Claire. She changed her last name 6 years ago, she said. Could be nothing. Lots of people do. But it came right after a messy civil case with an ex. Not criminal. Just ugly. There's also a pattern with friends. She had a prior engagement that blew up 3 weeks before the date. The reason listed on the venue cancellation? Irreconcilable differences with groom's adult daughter. I stopped walking. The letters on the shop signs in front of me might as well have been a foreign language. You're kidding. I wish I were. Papers shuffled on her end. I pictured her desk, the green lamp, the highlighter mauled at one end. There was even a note in a text chain that ended up as an exhibit. The groom's sister wrote, and this is paraphrase, not a quote. She keeps pushing symbolic gestures to make the daughter perform acceptance. It's weird. The hair on my arms lifted. My face felt hot and cold at once. The aisle. Yeah, honey, Claire said softly. The aisle. I found a bench by an empty planter and sat because my knees forgot how. From this angle, the restaurant's facade glittered like it had swallowed my afternoon whole. So what do? I asked. You breathe. You remember your boundary. You can also decide you're just not going. That's allowed. She hesitated, voice lowering. And someone else reached out to me. I didn't give them your info, I swear. But I want you to decide if you want to talk. Who? Her old friend, Claire said. Jess. They were close, apparently. Until they weren't. Jess says she watched the last engagement fall apart from the inside. She says there's a pattern. She'll tell you if you want. Or I can block her, and we pretend we never talked. I closed my eyes. The lemon from inside the restaurant still ghosted the back of my tongue. Give me her number. Claire read it out, slow twice. I typed it wrong and had to ask again because my fingers weren't listening. Whatever you decide, she said, I've got you. We hung up. I didn't call Jess right away. I sat there and watched the reflective glass door open and close, releasing brief gusts of chilled air as couples and friends and a woman in a navy skirt suit slipped in and out of their lunches that didn't crack open their pasts. My phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number this time, local area code. Are you my name? Please don't be mad. Claire told me you might reach out. If this is you, I used to be close with her. With Lana. I was supposed to be her maid of honor once. A second bubble appeared before I could answer. If you're the daughter who said no, good. Please don't change your mind before you see what I have. A third bubble, a photo attachment icon. Then another. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering, heart racing like I'd jogged here instead of spiraled. I tapped the first image open and waited for it to resolve. Whatever it was, Jess thought it mattered enough to send without a hello. I watched the loading bar inch across. And when the photo sharpened, my breath left my body so fast I pressed a hand to my chest like that would keep it from caving. It was my dad. At least, my dad's back. His suit. His hand. And Lana, in a white dress that looked almost, but not quite, like a wedding gown, paused halfway down an aisle I didn't recognize. The caption Jess had typed over the bottom said, 3 years ago, different groom, same bridge. I scrolled to the second photo with shaking fingers, the edges of my vision pulsing, and felt the world tilt again. Because in that one, there was another woman on Lana's arm. A daughter. Not me. And the look on that daughter's face was so familiar I felt it like a bruise I couldn't see. Polite, trapped, trying not to cry. My phone buzzed one more time. She'll tell him you're breaking his heart. She'll say the bridge is for healing. It's not. It's a test. Please call me. Before it gets worse. I didn't reply. Yet. I just sat there on the bench, clutching the cold edge with my free hand, with the pictures bright enough to hurt, listening to the city move, and I realized that my no wasn't just a refusal. It was a line. And on one side of it, I could see my dad. And on the other side, I could see everything else crashing toward us. I looked up and through the window caught the briefest flash of white. A blazer, a turn of blonde hair, a hand on a forearm, and felt the answer settle like stones. I stood up. And I called Jess. Jess's voice came through like she'd been waiting by the phone, like she hadn't moved since she hit send. She didn't bother with small talk. I'm sorry it had to be like that, she said. I didn't know how to convince you with words. Pictures seemed faster. I was walking now because sitting felt impossible. The sidewalk had those glittering flecks buried in the concrete like ground-up stars. Where did you get those? My camera roll, she said. I was there. You were at her last. Not last, she corrected, gentle but precise. The one before. The real last one never made it to the aisle. I stopped at the corner, the crosswalk flashing orange, drivers inching forward like they could will me out of the crosswalk with sheer impatience. How many times has she? 2 that I know of, Jess said. Maybe I'm wrong, and it's 3. I bowed out after. Well, after some things I'll explain if you want to meet. In person is better. I can show you messages. I don't want to text screenshots because honestly, I still get nervous about putting this anywhere permanent. I know that sounds dramatic. No, I said. It sounds like you used to be her friend. There was a beat. Yeah, she said softly. I loved her like a sister. She's charismatic. You know that. People orbit her. The light changed. I crossed. Where? She suggested a coffee shop halfway between us, a place with brick walls and fern fronds and iced lattes that cost more than logic allowed. I got there early and pressed my sweaty palms against the cold glass door before going in. Jess was already at a table near the back, hands around a ceramic mug like she was trying to warm herself from the inside out. She had one of those faces you trust too quickly, not perfect, just open. She waved me over with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. You look like him, she said as I sat, then winced. Sorry, that's a weird first thing to say. It's okay, I said, because it was, and because it also hurt. You knew my dad? She shook her head. I only met him once in passing, back when they started. She was coy about the overlap. Overlap, I repeated. The word had weight. Jess glanced around, lowered her voice. I'm not here to make you hate her. I'm here because I wish someone had done this for me when I was in her gravity. She does this thing where the people who love her have to prove it publicly. Big gestures. Symbolic stuff. She's not the only person who does that, obviously. But with her there's this choreography. She scripts it. And if you don't hit your mark, you're a villain. The walk him down the aisle thing? I watched her rehearse that language in the mirror. Grow me your blessing, she would say. It's always about growth. Bridges. Healing. It's pretty. And it's also control. The barista called someone's name. Milk hissed. I listened to the thud of my heart against my ribs. Who was the man in the photos? I asked. Jess looked at me long enough to decide something. He's not my story to tell, not fully, but a good man. He had a daughter who tried so hard I wanted to shake her shoulders and tell her to stop. She did walk him. She thought it would buy peace. It bought 6 months. And then, well, you know, the piece of paper didn't hold them. What happened to them? They fell apart somewhere quieter than a ceremony, Jess said. She isolated him so slowly he thought he was choosing it. His sister stopped calling because it was exhausting to be ignored. His daughter moved across the state. And then when he finally tried to get some breathing room, Lana flipped the narrative to abandonment. That's when the legal mess started. Non-criminal, she added quickly. Just nasty. Accusations. Financial blame. It's all public record. I hate that it is. I realized I'd been holding my breath so long my chest hurt. I exhaled a shaky sound I didn't recognize as mine. I keep thinking if I had just said yes, it would have been cleaner. But every time I pictured it, I felt wrong. Your body was telling you the truth, Jess said. Listen to that. She slid her phone across the table, screen queued up to a video. This is from a rehearsal dinner. Try to ignore the shaky camera. I was crying and my hand isn't steady when I'm upset. I pressed play. The video showed a long table strung with candles, a small room, the weird acoustics of laughter soaked into wood. Lana stood to make a toast. Her voice, even in bad audio, sparkled. She thanked everyone. She captured attention like it was electricity. And tomorrow, video Lana said, we cement something we built with intention, not as a replacement of any past, but as a harvest of all its lessons. It sounded good. It always did. And then her smile tipped just a hair. And I want to thank the women who showed up tonight ready to grow. Some of you have been skeptical. Some of you tested me. A pause. A slow, knowing glance toward the groom's daughter. But love asks us to be brave. To practice generosity. To cross bridges. Camera Jess whispered, "Oh no," and the vision bounced slightly. In the video, the daughter sat very still, hands in her lap. You could see her swallow. She makes the room pick sides without ever using the word, Jess said quietly, locking her elbows like she was bracing against a memory. And then she can say, I never said anything cruel. I only asked for love. It's slippery. I watched the rest of the clip and put the phone down very carefully like it might break. The cafe's music was some breathy indie song about oceans and names. I need to tell my dad, I said. He won't hear it, but I need to say it out loud while there's still a chance he hears me a little. Jess nodded. Say it. And write it. They rewrite. Paper resists revision better than memory does. I'm scared, I admitted. He already told me not to come if I couldn't perform. And I feel this childish urge to show up anyway. To stand at the back like a ghost and remind him I'm real. I don't even know what that would do to me. Or him. Jess wrapped her fingers tighter around her mug. You don't owe the room your body to prove that you love him. You can love him and still refuse to be used. We sat for a while. She told me small stories that filled out the edges. How Lana could be funny and silly. How she curled on couches with knee socks and watched bad TV. How she saved stray cats and then forgot to feed them unless reminded. How she loved being adored and scared of being ordinary. None of it made her a caricature. It made her a person. That almost made this harder. When I left, Jess hugged me like she was trying to pass some courage through skin. I walked the long way home because I wasn't ready to be inside with my thoughts. The air wobbled with heat above the asphalt. A dog barked at a squirrel like it could argue it down the tree. My phone buzzed. Aunt Claire again. You okay? I met her friend, I said. Ex-friend. Jess. Yeah. We were quiet together. Then Claire said, I have to tell you something I've been sitting on because I didn't want to be the gossip aunt. Your mom should have told you. And maybe she didn't because she was protecting you. But if this is about truth and lines, you deserve all of it. I ducked into the sliver of shade cast by a bus stop. Okay. Your dad's timeline is messy, she said. He started seeing Lana before the separation papers were filed. He'll swear it was emotional, and then it was physical only after, but the receipts don't line up. I found a charge for a hotel the week before he told your mom. I know where he was that night because he texted me asking if I thought it was too soon to be happy again. I didn't know who it was then. Now I do. I wanted to argue, to make some charity out of the facts. Instead, what came out was a sound like a laugh and a cough shaking hands. Mom knew. She suspected. He didn't confess. She didn't push because she was tired. She told me she wanted to keep your world intact as long as possible. But she knew. I walked again because motion helped. The sidewalk blurred at the edges. I'm so angry, I said. At everyone. At him. At me for making this about me when maybe it's just messy adult love. At her. At the folder. You're not making it about you, Claire said. He asked you to make it about you when he put you in the program. I got home and stood in the doorway for a second holding my keys like I'd forgotten what doors were for. Inside, the apartment smelled like laundry detergent and lemons. My mom's necklace lay on the console where I dropped mail, the chain a loose curve. I called her. She answered on the second ring with that worried inhale she's never learned to hide. Sweetheart, did you know? I asked, and my voice came out flat, like I was reading a grocery list. About when it started? She didn't pretend not to understand. I had pieces, she said. I didn't put them together in time. Or I pretended I didn't. Why didn't you tell me? Because you were 12, she said softly. And then you were 13. And then 14. And by the time you were old enough to hear it, I didn't want to harden your heart against your father. I thought maybe if he was better later, it wouldn't matter what he did earlier. That's not fair to you. Or to truth. I'm sorry. I sat on the rug with my back to the couch like gravity had changed. He wants me to walk him down the aisle, I said. He wants a bridge. Her exhale shivered through the line. I know. He called me 2 nights ago to tell me he was trying to include you, and that you were resistant. It's the word he uses when people don't do what he wants. He called you and asked me to talk to you, she said. I told him I would not be the messenger for his choreographed piece. My throat tightened. Thank you. I'm proud of you, she said, for seeing what you see, even if it hurts. After we hung up, I wrote. Jess's advice rattled around in my head. Paper resists revision. I wrote a letter to my dad in a notebook first because lines and ink calm me. I explained why I refused. I said no to the aisle, and no to the candle, and no to the staged blessing. I said yes to a conversation about us. I said yes to lunch without folders. I said I would not attend the wedding if my presence was contingent on a performance. It wasn't a threat. It was a boundary. Then I texted him. I left a letter in your mailbox. Please read it when you're able. I love you. I'm not coming if the condition is a role on the program. The typing dots appeared. Stopped. Appeared again. Finally, his reply arrived, each sentence like a bump in the road. I read it. I'm disappointed. I won't beg you. We moved the date up. 2 weeks. If you change your mind about the role, you're welcome. If not, please don't come. 2 weeks. My body buzzed like I'd touched a live wire. He had moved the date up. Whether that was logistics or strategy, I couldn't know. I stared at those lines until my screen dimmed and then brightened with a tap of my thumb. I typed a dozen responses and erased them. I finally sent, okay, I won't come. I love you. I set my phone face down and sat very still and listened to the refrigerator hum like another person in the room. An hour later, there was a knock at my door. I looked through the peephole and my stomach did a drop and catch because it was my dad, shifting from foot to foot like he had to pee, and behind him, slightly off to the side, Lana, her white blazer off now, a cream blouse like something soft you sink into. I opened the door a foot. I got your text. He nodded. We were nearby. We thought we'd try again in person, Lana said with that careful softness. Words read on a screen lose tone. I wrote a letter, I said. I think the tone was clear. Dad's eyes were tired. The skin around them creased in ways that made him look older than last week. Just, can we come in a minute? No tricks. No folder. I hesitated. Then I stepped back because I realized I needed to know whether this was a conversation or a final rehearsal. They came in like they belonged to the space, like every room adjusted for them. Dad didn't sit. He stood behind the couch, hands on the back like it was a lectern. Lana stayed near the door, which somehow felt more dangerous than if she'd perched casually somewhere. It meant she could leave the second the script didn't serve. He didn't make me wait. We moved the date up because the venue had a conflict, he said. Also because, frankly, this waiting is making everything hard. I want to be married. I'm tired of the in-between. Okay, I said. I want you there, he added quickly. But I understand you don't want to walk me. I can accept that if you can agree to something smaller. Not for show. For me. 5 minutes before the ceremony. Just us. I want to look at my daughter and know we're okay. It was the first thing he'd said all week that hit the place in me that remembers who he also is. The man who taught me to ride a bike in the empty school parking lot at dusk. The man who burned pancakes on my 7th birthday and pretended it was how chefs do it. We won't be okay in 5 minutes, I said. We're okay when you treat me like a person after the ceremony. We're okay when you check in on the random Tuesday after you get back from the honeymoon. We're okay when my love isn't content. He flinched a little. Lana watched me like a hawk afraid to blink. She spoke first, and her voice wasn't soft this time. Then what do you want? Because I feel like we keep asking you what would make you comfortable, and you keep saying no to things instead of yes to anything. What I want, I said, and I felt tired and certain at once, is to not be asked to prove that I am good. I am his daughter. That's not up for a vote in a room with chairs and a string quartet. Dad rubbed his temple. We're going in circles. Because you invited a loop, I said. I couldn't help the edge now. It sharpened itself. You invited me to an event where you assigned me a role and then told me love means accepting it. When I didn't, you said I was negative. That's not a circle. That's a trap. They both went quiet. A thin siren sounded far away, the kind that hovers like weather. Lana broke first. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small box wrapped in pale paper with a white ribbon. She set it on the console beside my mom's necklace, and the sight of those two things beside each other jolted me. This was for you, she said. For the day. You can open it or not. It's just, I hoped. I didn't touch it. What is it? A bracelet, she said. With a small charm. A bridge. Of course it was. I can't wear it, I said, and my voice broke right down the middle, so I had to swallow and find the other half. I'm sorry. I can't. She nodded like she'd practiced receiving defeat gracefully. She glanced at my dad. He looked down at the carpet, then up at me, and his eyes were the closest to what I'd seen in years. Okay, he said again, and the door closed further. Then I think we're done here. They turned. They left. The door clicked shut with a sound that felt both too small and too final for what it sealed. I stood there looking at the box, at my mom's necklace, at the slice of hallway visible under the door. I picked up the box and carried it to the kitchen and set it on the counter like a piece of evidence. Then I washed my hands under water, so cold it burned. I texted Aunt Claire. They came. It's over. He said not to come if I don't do a roll. He offered 5 minutes. I said no. They left a gift. A bridge. I can't stop shaking. She wrote back instantly. Proud of you. Come over? Or want me to come to you? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with a new thread. A group text, and I recognized names. My Aunt Claire, my dad, his best man, the coordinator, and, of course, Lana. The last message was a forwarded vendor note about a guest list update, with a line that made my eyes sting. Groom's daughter, name removed from reserved seating. If she attends, seat in back row, left side. No photos including her. I stared until the words doubled. Then Lana added, not to be punitive, just to protect the energy. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. I didn't respond. Claire did, with a clipped, remove me from this thread. Logistics about my niece go through her, not a committee. Dots. No dots. Silence. I put my phone face down again because if I watched it I might throw it. I walked to the window and pressed my forehead to the glass, the cool shocking me back in my skin. A car door outside thunked closed. Footsteps on the stairs. Another knock. I looked through the peephole and sucked in air because it wasn't my dad this time. It was my mom, hair in a messy bun, eyes red like she'd been crying, holding a paper grocery bag like she'd sprinted carrying it. I opened the door and she stepped in without preface, wrapped me in a hug that smelled like laundry and rain. I couldn't sit at home anymore, she said into my hair. I keep feeling like they're staging a story and I needed to come stand in the middle of yours. She pulled back and put the bag on the counter. Inside were 2 containers of soup, a loaf of bread, and a bottle of ginger ale like I was sick. There's more, she said, voice steadying like she was bracing herself to do something hard. He sent me something, and I think you need to see it before you decide what to do next. She reached into her purse, pulled out an envelope, and tapped the edge against her palm. It's a letter, she said, from him, but it wasn't meant for you. My throat tightened, heat behind my eyes. Then why do I? Because in it, she said, he asks me to help convince you. And he says something about why they moved the date up that he didn't tell you. She held the envelope out. It changes the timeline, she said, and maybe the stakes. I took it. My name wasn't on the front. But when I touched the paper, I could feel my pulse in my fingertips. I sat at my kitchen table with the envelope in front of me, my mom across from me like a silent guard. The paper looked unassuming, just a standard cream stationery with his slanted handwriting. Nothing about it screamed dangerous. But my palms were sweating, and I swear the corners of that envelope pulsed like it held a heartbeat. Open it, my mom said softly. She hadn't even taken her jacket off. My fingers felt clumsy. I tore the flap unevenly and pulled out 2 folded pages. His handwriting was always messy, but I recognized the sharp loops and the way he crossed his T's like little swords. I started reading. Claire, I need you to do me a favor. Please talk to her. She's stubborn, and I know she doesn't understand why this matters. This wedding isn't just about me and Lana. It's about showing certain people that I've moved forward, that I can create something stable and permanent. If my daughter refuses to be part of it, it looks bad. It makes us look fractured, and that's not the image we need right now. I'm not saying she has to love Lana overnight, but optics matter. They always have. If she walks me, it changes everything. It proves that the past is in the past, that healing is possible. The coordinators and, well, investors want to see that. It's not just family watching. It's business contacts. This could affect deals. You know how important perception is in my work. We moved the date up because the resort had a cancellation, but also because waiting was making things messy. Better to seal this before doubts grow legs. If she refuses, she doesn't have to come. But if you can sway her, please try. This isn't only personal. It's professional survival. Don't show her this. Just try to help me. I stopped halfway through the second page, my eyes burning. My voice came out hoarse. Investors? Mom folded her hands on the table, knuckles pale. Keep reading. I forced myself to. Lana has already had questions from people about her past relationships. I need this to look solid. I need my daughter to be seen at my side, smiling, giving her blessing. Otherwise the story gets twisted. You know how rumors start. Help me, please. The rest was business jargon, about optics and timing, about turning the page. I set it down, my hands trembling so badly I had to press them flat to the table. Investors, I repeated, almost laughing. He wants me to walk him down the aisle because of investors, because it makes a good photo op. My mom nodded slowly, her eyes soft but firm. I think he's tangled up. I don't think he sees how much he's using you. But yes, that's what he's asking. I felt hollow. Not angry, not sad, just empty, like he'd scooped out the part of me that still believed this was about love and family. And he didn't tell me. He just said it would mean the world to him. She reached for my hand, but I pulled it back because if she touched me, I might break. He's scared, she said gently. He thinks stability means staging stability. He's forgotten what real connection looks like. Or maybe he never knew, I muttered. The silence sat heavy between us. Outside, a car alarm hooped once and then stopped, like even the city wasn't sure it wanted to interrupt. What do I do with this? I asked finally. Do I call him out? Do I show up at the wedding and wave the letter in the air? Do I send it to the so-called investors? Mom's face pinched. If you confront him with it, he'll spin it as concern for you. He'll say he only mentioned business because he wanted security for you. For us. He's always been good at shifting. I thought of Lana's bridges and growth speeches, of Jess's video, of the daughter in the photo, smile frozen, playing her role in someone else's story. My stomach twisted. So what? I just stay home and let them pretend I don't exist. Mom leaned forward. You decide what preserves you. That's the only thing you control. Not the investors. Not Lana. Not your dad's narrative. Just you. I wanted to believe that was enough. But I kept seeing my name struck from the seating chart. I kept hearing Lana's text. Not punitive, just protecting the energy. Protecting the energy. Like I was a storm they had to guard against. I excused myself and went to the bathroom, gripping the sink until my knuckles hurt. I looked at my reflection. Same eyes as him, same slope of nose. I wanted to carve his features off my face. When I came back, Mom had heated the soup she'd brought. She slid a bowl toward me like I was still 12, still needing warm food to anchor me. I ate it without tasting, each spoonful heavy. When she left, she kissed my forehead and whispered, "Don't let them rewrite you." The apartment felt too quiet after. I sat staring at the envelope again, and then my phone buzzed. Jess, did you open the letter? I froze. How did she know? I typed, "What letter?" She responded instantly. He's written them before. To people around him. He never thinks they'll share. I stared. My heart thudded like I was being watched. What do you mean before? I asked. The dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Check your email. Sending you something. I opened my laptop, my hands shaky. A new message from her blinked in. For you. I'm sorry. Attached was a PDF. Scanned pages. A letter. From my dad. To the sister of the other groom. The words, almost identical. Optics. Investors. Bridge. The only difference was the names. I dropped my head into my hands and let out a sound that was part laugh, part sob. It wasn't just me. It was a pattern. And somehow, knowing that didn't make it hurt less. It made it worse. Because now, it wasn't about whether he loved me. It was about whether he knew how to love anyone without turning them into a prop. I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake, the city humming outside, my phone face up on the nightstand like it might spit more truths at me. And when dawn slid across the blinds, painting everything pale gold, I knew. I couldn't just stay quiet anymore. But if I spoke, I wasn't just risking him being angry. I was risking burning every bridge, literal and metaphorical, that tethered me to him. The next morning, I dragged myself to work in a haze, but my brain wasn't in spreadsheets or deadlines. It was stuck on two words, optics and pattern. At lunch, I ducked into a quiet corner of the park and called Aunt Claire. She answered on the second ring. You read it, she said flatly. I read it. And Jess sent me one he wrote years ago. To someone else's family. A pause. Then, of course he did. Her voice had that weary sadness, not surprise. Like she'd been waiting for this confirmation. What do I do? I asked. Do I tell him I know? Do I show him the proof? Claire sighed. Sweetheart, he won't see it the way you do. He'll think you're betraying him by digging. He'll double down. You've seen him do it before. But I can't just let it go, I snapped. People glanced at me, but I didn't care. He's using me like a stage prop. He's using this wedding as a business pitch. Then you need to decide if you're willing to blow it up, she said gently. Because that's what it will feel like to him. Even if you're right. Even if you're just protecting yourself. I sat on a park bench, staring at pigeons fighting over crumbs. My chest ached. Why does protecting myself feel like betrayal? Because he's trained you to think your role is to hold him together, she said. It's not. Her words echoed long after we hung up. That night, I sat at my desk and started drafting an email. Not to him, not to Lana, to the coordinator. Hi. I noticed my name was removed from the reserved seating list. Please keep it that way. I won't be attending. Kindly do not include me in any photos or announcements. If asked, you can say I declined respectfully. That's the truth. I hovered over send for 10 full minutes, then clicked it. The relief was sharp, like yanking out a splinter. But it didn't last. Because the next morning, my phone rang at 7 a.m. It was my dad. I let it go to voicemail. 30 seconds later, Lana called. Then a text came through. We need to talk. Now. My hands shook. I ignored it. 2 hours later, another text. This one from an unknown number. You don't know me. I'm other groom's daughter. I heard from Jess. She said you might want to talk. Please. My chest tightened. I stared at the name, the same girl from the photo, the one with the frozen smile. I typed back before I could overthink. Yes. Please. Call me. When the phone rang, I picked up so fast I almost dropped it. Her voice was soft, careful. Hi. I don't know what Jess told you, but I saw your picture once. Jess showed me. You look like me in that photo. The aisle one. I swallowed hard. I saw your picture too. We were quiet for a moment, two strangers connected by a bizarre ritual. She sighed. I don't want to dump everything, but it doesn't stop. The requests. The symbolic gestures. If you say no, you're resistant. If you say yes, you're used up. I thought I could buy peace by walking her. It didn't work. Her words slid into me like knives. I didn't say yes. I whispered. Good, she said, almost fierce. Don't. You'll lose yourself in it. I already did. I pressed my forehead into my hand, tears pricking. My dad said if I don't do it, I shouldn't come at all. He told me investors would be there. That optics mattered. She gave a bitter laugh. Same script. Different groom. I closed my eyes. What happened to you? Her voice cracked. I haven't spoken to my dad in 2 years. Because he picked her over me. And by the time he realized what she was, it was too late. He'd already burned us. Don't let that happen to you. I sat there, clutching the phone, my breath uneven. Because I could feel it happening. The gap widening. The choice already made. And then she said something that made my blood run cold. She keeps a folder. A real one. With copies of the programs, the letters, the speeches. She calls it her legacy. If you ever see it, read it. That's where the truth is. A folder. I thought of the glossy mock-up Dad had slid across the table. But this sounded bigger. Where? I asked. Where does she keep it? She used to keep it in her closet, she said. But before I cut contact, she bragged about moving it into a safe. Said it was her insurance policy. Insurance. Against men who forget her, she whispered. Against daughters who resist. My stomach flipped. A safe. A folder. A legacy. And suddenly I knew. If I wanted to protect myself, and maybe even him, I needed to see it. But getting to it meant stepping back into their world. And I wasn't sure I'd come out whole. I didn't want to break laws or break in. I wanted the truth where I could look it in the eye. So I texted Lana, I want to return the bracelet. If you're home, I can swing by. She replied in under a minute. Come at 5. I'd like to clear the air. Aunt Claire begged me to share my location. I did. My mom made me promise I wouldn't go alone. I promised and still went alone because I needed to control at least one thing in this circus. Their house smelled like lilies and lemon polish. Lana opened the door already performing softness, bare feet, hair in a low knot, sweater with sleeves pushed to her elbows like she was busy being gentle. Thank you for coming, she said, taking the box. Can we talk? I won't be at the wedding, I said. But I hope. I stopped. I didn't know what I hoped. She led me toward the living room. On the way, I passed their bedroom. The door was open. Inside, a jewelry case sat on a dresser, drawers askew. And wedged on the floor beside the dresser, half hidden by a garment bag, was a small fireproof safe, door not fully latched. Someone had been rushing. My heart thudded. I shouldn't. I knew I shouldn't. But the safe's mouth was already open, and inside, on top of a stack of folders, I saw the word that has haunted me all week, processional. Beneath it, a tab that read letters. Another, programs. On the bottom tab, written in her neat hand, legacy. Kitchen. Lana prompted, that light lilt making it sound like there was only one correct answer. I'll be quick, I said, stepping into the bedroom like I'd misheard. I just need a tissue. And then I crouched, fingers shaking, and slid the top folder back 3 inches. Enough to see. Enough to know. Programs from the last engagement, the one before it. Photocopies with dates. In the letters tab, drafts. My father's handwriting visible through thin paper, my name swapped where another daughter's had been. In the legacy tab, a printed list titled Bridges built with bullet points, dates, names, notes. She had annotated other women's pain like a scrapbook. My phone camera clicked before I could talk myself out of it. One shot of the list, one of the letter draft with the word optics underlined, one of a program where a role titled Daughter's Blessing was highlighted in neon. Are you lost? Lana's voice cut the air from the doorway. Not soft now. Not even pretending. I stood slowly, meeting her eyes. You left it open. Her gaze flicked to the safe and back. She didn't blush. She didn't sputter. She smiled, small, cold. You came here to steal context. I came to see the truth. I held her stare. This isn't healing. It's a set list. She stepped closer, voice barely above a whisper. You don't understand something fundamental about me. Love is ritual. It needs choreography to survive chaos. I build that. That's my gift. It's control, I said. Control is how you keep the wolves out, she murmured. You, of all people, should thank me. I offered you a way back on stage. I'm not a cast member, I said, breathing hard. I'm his daughter. Her lips curved. Are you? You handed that role to your aunt and mother long ago. Don't project the vacancy on me. I felt the room tilt. Where is he? Out, she said. Meeting. Important. Pause. Investors. I swallowed bile. He wrote my aunt a letter about optics. He asked her to convince me. She lifted her chin. He wants a life that works. So do I. She took the bracelet box from the console, set it gently on the safe like a crown. You can leave now. Or you can keep looking and find more ways to hurt yourself. I'm not the one who wrote a list called Bridges Built, I said. Who are the wolves now? We stared at each other. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Aunt Claire, if you're not out in 2 minutes, I'm coming in. I took a step toward the door. Lana didn't move. As I passed her, she said, almost kindly, tell your aunt to stop digging. Men hate women who keep records. I stopped at the threshold. Maybe, but courts don't. For the first time, she blinked. I left without another word. On the sidewalk, I exhaled so hard my vision sparkled. My phone lit with a new message from Dad. I heard you came by. I don't know what you think you saw. Stop creating problems. If you can't support us, stay away. We're done until after the wedding. Until after, I repeated to the empty air, tasting the threat wrapped as timeline. I texted Jess the photos. She wrote back one line. I'm so sorry. Now you know how deep it goes. My aunt called. Did you get out? I got out, I said, voice shaking. And I got something else. What? Proof, I whispered. And I think it's about to blow everything up. The rehearsal dinner was that night. I didn't go, but Aunt Claire did, and she promised to keep me updated. I sat in my apartment clutching my phone, waiting. Around 7 p.m. She texted, wanting to hand him your letter? Privately. No scenes. I typed back, yes. Please. The letter was short, direct. I love you. I will not attend. I saw the folder. I won't be part of optics or business deals. I want coffee with you on any Tuesday after the honeymoon, but I will not be a prop. Claire texted again an hour later, gave it to him. Alone. He looked cracked. He asked where you got the idea about a folder. I said, ask your fiancée. My stomach twisted. How did she look? Claire, triumphant on stage. Brittle off it. Later, they're in the back room. Voices raised. I can't hear words. He's not smiling now. I paced my apartment until the rug went crooked. When my phone rang, I nearly dropped it. Voicemail number 1 from Dad. Kiddo, I don't know why you're listening to people who don't know us. She said you invaded our privacy. She said you took pictures. That's not you. Please don't do this. Voicemail number 2. If you send anything to anyone, you will regret it. Don't test me. Voicemail number 3, quieter. I keep thinking about the school parking lot. When you fell, and I told you to get back up. You did. You always do. I wanted this to be simple. I don't know how to fix it. I pressed the phone to my chest until it hurt. I didn't call back. At 10:30 p.m. Claire again. He left early. They told guests he had a headache. He didn't take photos. She stayed and toasted to resilience. The wedding was tomorrow, and for the first time, I wasn't sure there'd actually be one. I woke up on the wedding day with a heaviness that felt like a storm pressing down. I expected silence. Instead, at 11 a.m., Aunt Claire called. He postponed, she said, almost breathless. Not canceled, but postponed. Guests got a text. Due to unforeseen circumstances, today's ceremony is rescheduled. Details to follow. He's at the venue, dealing with fallout. She is furious. I sat down hard. Is he okay? He sounded scared, but solid. He told me to tell you he'll call Tuesday. Said you'd know what that means. I did. At 3 p.m., my phone lit up with his name. He didn't say hello. Just, I didn't do it. I know, I said quietly. I told the coordinator to take your name off any future programs. No more roles. If you come to anything later, it'll be as my guest, not my prop. Tears blurred my vision. Thank you. She showed me the list, he said. Called it her legacy. It looked like trophies. I don't know if I'll marry her later. I don't know if I'm brave enough. But I'll stop asking you to make me look brave. That's enough, I said. He hesitated. Tuesday, I whispered. We hung up. That night, Mom came over with soup and bread. We didn't talk about the wedding. We just ate and watched TV like it was any other night. Before bed, I set the bracelet with its tiny bridge charm next to Mom's necklace. 2 different stories of love. In my notebook, I wrote, I am not a prop. I am the story. On Tuesday, we met at a diner. The booths were cracked vinyl, the coffee awful. He didn't promise to change everything. He didn't ask me to forgive everything. He just sat across from me, ordinary, no stage, no script. As we left, he touched my shoulder and said softly, Thank you for saying no. You're welcome, I said. We stepped out into the sunlight, and for the first time, I didn't feel like I was walking onto a stage. I was just walking, and that was everything.